Today I'm going to be ranking the current top 10 games that I have for Nintendo GameCube. This console was a major part of my childhood in which I would come home from school and boot it up to play and just have a whole bunch of fun with it until the Wii came out, since I could play both the Wii and GameCube games on that console. Now, this list is only going to include games that I have played a ton of or have beaten, since there will no doubt be games that some of you believe should be here that I have either never played or I might have played for about an hour or so, and I feel like I shouldn't include those. So if you like, you can leave your top 10 games in the comments below. But with that out of the way, let's get into my current top 10 games for the Nintendo GameCube. At number 10, I have Luigi's Mansion. This game was the main first-party launch game for the system, and while it's not a long game per se, it's a fun one to come back to every now and then. This game has you going around a haunted mansion full of ghosts that you need to suck up into your Poltergust 3000 that was given to you from Professor Egad to save Mario, who was kidnapped and brought here. This type of game I feel like just fits Luigi almost perfectly, since he's seen as more of like the scaredy cat of the group. Also, the controls of this game are really nice as well. While you're not wahooing yourself all over the place like Mario, the feel of both the vacuum and the flashlight just work really well together. But we can't talk about the game without talking about the bosses, which have some where you need to solve some small, well, I guess puzzles to make them show their heart so you can suck them up. Also, something that I enjoy is the fact that after you reach a point, there are boos that get released into the mansion, and you have to go around to the areas that you've already cleared to get them. Some may find that a little bit annoying, but I just love it because of the puns that they love to shout every time they get revealed. Coming in at number 9 is Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Since this game on this console could be used with the DK bongos, I always used them when playing this game growing up. It just felt like it fit the game too perfectly and always made the game a blast to play whenever I felt in the mood to play it. The main point of this game is to go around and collect as many bananas as you can throughout the levels by chaining them together before landing on the ground to get as many crests as you can to be able to progress throughout the game. You run around collecting bananas, beating up enemies, and maybe riding a hoofer every now and then. However, one thing that makes me really like this game are the bosses. At the end of each kingdom, you have to fight one of the 4 types of bosses, and they are all fun to battle, whether it's the Kong, Rock, Hog, or Tusk. My favorite of them though would probably be the Kongs, because they just feel the most like actual fights, whereas the others are more throwing or launching things at you to damage you, and you have to throw or launch things at them to damage them. Oh, did I mention that this was also one of the first games that Yoshiaki Koizumi was a director in? Kinda wild that he started with this and Mario Sunshine, and is now a producer for more or less every single 3D Mario ever since. Now at number 8, I have Mario Kart Double Dash. The biggest thing that's different about this Mario Kart compared to the other ones is that you have 2 players per kart. You could swap each other from the front to the back of the kart, and they both have their own item slot as well. So in that sense, you could use a decent amount of strategy with having one character always in the back, or just continuously swapping every time you come by an item box, since each character also has their own special items as well. Now, I would say the thing that either makes it to where people love this game or hate this game is that they like the controls. Out of all the Mario Karts, this one definitely feels the most different, especially with the drifting. In other games, you usually hop into a drift, but with this game, you just go straight into the drift, and it takes a little bit to get used to it, especially if you're used to just how every other game in the series just feels when it comes to drifting. At number 7 is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. This game has two main stories for you to follow, being both the heroes and the villains. Each story has three different characters that you use, with each of them playing differently. Sonic and Shadow are all about running fast and hoping you don't have an enemy spawn out of nowhere to take all your rings, or, just completely fly off the level itself. Knuckles and Rouge are treasure hunters where you fly around the levels to find hidden Chaos Emeralds, and except for maybe one level in each, are usually fun to roam around and do the searching in. However, the least fun type of these levels for me are the Tails and Eggman levels. They usually just feel slow to do, and to get a high score you more or less just have to hold the shoot button, and that usually lets out a very high-pitched squealing that feels like it should be like a dog whistle, but it's just not high enough of a pitch to be that. The story in this game is honestly just very convoluted. Like, it starts out with Sonic breaking out of a helicopter because Shadow goes around doing evil things and they think he's Sonic. And then it ends up with them out in space, with the moon now in half, and they're fighting a giant-ass space lizard. I think I might need some hard liquor after that story. Coming in at number 6 is Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. This Pokemon game isn't like your usual run around, catch Pokemon, beat the gyms, and become champion game that you've probably played about 50 times by now. Instead, in this game, you're going around cities, towns, and villages, snatching shadow Pokemon from other trainers who have forcibly had their hearts locked off, and you need to use those Pokemon in battles to reopen their hearts to learn moves again and level up. Even though I have been so used to the idea of catching Pokemon in the wild, having a game where you actively take Pokemon from other trainers is pretty fun in its own right. Like, in a way, it kind of feels like that kind of Pokemon game that I've always wanted Game Freak to make, where you'd play as something like Team Rocket, where your whole goal is to mess with other trainers and take Pokemon from them as well. But here, I'm actually still seen as the good guy. This just being the way that it is might be up there for one of my more favorites in the series. Starting the top 5, I have Mario Superstar Baseball. Now, if you saw the top 10 Wii games video that I made, Sluggers was in there, and of course the GameCube Mario Baseball game was going to be here as well. The hitting, pitching, and fielding all feel very fun in this game to play, and something that I've seen people get way too used to in Sluggers is that in that game, the runners will auto go back for you if, somebody hits a fly out. But in this game, you actually have to pay attention, and I just personally like that more because it reminds me more of the baseball games that I usually like to play. The story mode in this game has you running around to every captain's stadiums to challenge them to, a game of baseball. And every so often challenges will show up for specific characters, and if you do them, you'll either get 1 star closer to getting them to join your team, or they'll just join your team right away anyway. Also, there's the mini games in here, like my favorites being the Ba-Bomb Derby and Wall Ball, which are always a blast to play. For a baseball game, there's just a lot of things to do here that I always love coming back to do. At number 4 is Super Smash Bros. Melee. This is by many seen as the best Smash game in the entire series, and the reason for that is just because of how big it got in the competitive scene. The game has the fastest controls, and for those who get really deep into it, there's just a bunch of combos and movements that you can pull off if you really put your heart and soul into the game. Now, that isn't me. I may be average at this game, at best, and that's just being nice to myself. The high speeds aren't my favorite, but after playing again for the first time in a little bit, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't enjoy it and probably see myself coming back to it much more often than I have been in, the recent past. There's 2 things that this game brought into the series for the first time that I love. The adventure mode, where you go around the different series' areas and either beat things up or run through and traverse, is not as fun for me as in Subspace, but still really enjoyable. The other thing that I love are the events. You can use whichever character you like for some, but the most fun are the ones where there are very specific conditions, like the one where you gotta do a Pokemon battle, and the only way that you can do damage is from the Pokemon that you get from the Pokeballs. Now, with everything that is in this game, it still amazes me that this game was only in development for 13 months. My number 3 game is Sonic Riders. This is probably my second favorite racing game ever, and it's not even close. This and my favorite outclassed literally every single racing game I have ever played in my life. In this game, you play as any of the Sonic cast, and then you ride on extreme gear instead of your usual carts, bikes, or cars, and they need air to move around. In order to get air, you need to pull off tricks, get the item capsules which include air, level up your extreme gear, or use one of the pit stops that are around the courses. You can use the air also to get boosts that you can use to get just a little bit further ahead of your opponents, or you can use the boost to run into other players and get them stunned for a few seconds. The only thing that I personally could maybe complain about this game is the length of the story mode. It's rather short, especially if you're decent at the game, which in turn also means that there isn't a ton of courses for you to play on. There's only 16 total, and I feel like if there was maybe about like 20 to 25, that it would just be perfect for the first game in this series. Still though, I love playing on basically all of them, so it's not the biggest deal to me. At number 2, I have Mario Party 6. This is currently my favorite Mario Party in the entire series. The biggest thing for me in this game is the day-night cycle, where every 3 turns in each board, it'll change between day and night. In some of the boards, there isn't too many major things, like a path or two will switch, or some of the happening spaces will change to do different things, but the ones that do actually have the major things changing are my 2 favorite in the entire series. Fair Square, which is my favorite board, randomly changes the star price and can make it as cheap as 5 coins or as expensive as 40. There's so many events around the board, whether you have to run into them or have to land on them with happening spaces, which can make you rich in either coins or stars, or the complete opposite, and I love all that chaos. The other board that I love is Clockwork Castle, where in the day DK roams around the board with you to give you stars, and at night Bowser roams around to take stars from you. It's just such a perfect idea and can make for some absolute hilarity and of course rage. I haven't even talked about the mini games, the extra modes, or even the story mode, even though it's short, but that just goes to show that I love this Mario Party, and it will probably be my top one for a long time, unless Jamboree somehow changes that. Coming in at number 1 is Super Mario Sunshine. This game is probably the most divisive of all the 3D Marios. Like 90 to 95% of people I have either talked to about this game or have watched play and or rank this game either have it as their favorite 3D Mario or their least favorite 3D Mario. For me, it's towards the top. This was the last true sandbox Mario game until Odyssey, since from here they kept things more linear with what stars you could earn in each area, and just in general with how linear some of the levels were themselves. In this game you have Flood, which along with the moves that Mario usually has, well except for the long jump, gives you more leniency with your movement. You could slightly miss your jump and use Flood to set yourself right back on course. Now, the areas in this game are all ones that I like to explore and roam around in, except for maybe one. Now that may be just because of the blue coins in the area, and Noki Bay is just horrifying to really try to find them all in. Every area though, I have no problem finding them if I really put my mind to it. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that people don't like about Sunshine. The blue coins. There's 240 of them that get you 24 of the 120 shines, and there's a lot of them. As much as I like roaming around to find them, I will admit that it would be probably best for the game if there was maybe half to 150 at most. But yeah, still in the end, Mario Sunshine is my top game on the GameCube as of now. Well, that is my top 10 Nintendo GameCube games. What'd you think of the list? Leave your thoughts and your top 10 lists down in the comments below. Now, if you don't mind me, I think there are some other games on this system that I need to go and finally play after never playing them before.